Oh, hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to it. This is 1100 WSGI. I'm Eugene LaVern. Yes, this is, you know it, one street over. What's going on? One street over. From where you living? Welcome to it. This is, again, an opportunity to just kind of catch up on what's going on around the world. Scott Erwin is in the house. He is our Veteran Service Officer here in Springfield, Robertson County. And the best, we know y'all are. Let's pull this microphone. I went to move these microphones. Move it this way for me. Get it out of your face. There we go. I went to move those, and then we got to talking, and I got distracted and didn't get that done. But we don't want it in your beautiful face. But I'm sure you guys have been kind of busy coming off Memorial Day. Were you just like all over the place and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I wasn't. It was steady, but it wasn't Terry Wilson steady.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
You know, Terry Wilson doing 15 events over 3 days when he was in the office. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of time, a lot of commitment.
Right.
Was able to kind of. It's kind of a mix between being a veteran myself and wanting to enjoy time with the family. I'm real big with time with my family.
You bet.
Simple things.
Right.
But also being out in the community and attending the events we can. Mm-hmm. I know we did, Gwen and I were both at Greenbrier Memorial Day event at Austin and Bell.
Right. That was with Jeff Allen and hosted that, right?
That was a good one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I knew it would be.
Yeah, had a good speaker, and had a good message, and then ran to White House, mm-hmm. and that was the first time I've been out to the White House event. It was really short and sweet, but it was a good outdoor event. I think one of their facilities that it may have been held in previously is under construction, is being brand new built.
Gotcha.
And then came back to Springfield. And NHC here in Springfield was putting on an event for some of their Vietnam veterans specifically. You know, we have the 50-year commemorative pin for our Vietnam veterans. That pin and what it symbolizes was passed through Congress. And this is of course, being the 50-year anniversary of the end of Vietnam. Mm. This is the last year that they'll be making that pin. It'll be changing next year. So got to deliver some of those to our veterans there in NHC Springfield.
Okay. That's really cool. That's really cool. But, 50 years. Wow.
It is.
Yeah. That's incredible. I know. I'm getting old. That's the thing. Well, and then it makes me really kind of reflect on with it being 50 years, it's such a part of my childhood, because I would have, at the end of it, I would have been 12, and I grew up not knowing a world that was not at war. Mm. Because I've always talked about my first vivid memories was losing our hired hand, Kenneth, in Vietnam. And then you think about with it ending 50 years ago, I would have been 12 years old. And so that just, that's why it's you think about how things impress you and the things that stay with you forever. Yeah. That's why I just can't hardly talk about Vietnam, because I grew up in that, grew up in that era. And that's the reason why I was too big of a chicken to serve and had plenty of opportunities to serve and turned away from them, is because I was so uncertain about what the military was, but that's amazing. I never really thought about how old I was when it ended. And that really kind of drives it home for me why it left such an impression on me.
Well, I was born the year it ended.
Wow.
But it's what's hard to believe in our line of work is that here it is almost 50 years later, and the VA is still acknowledging certain medical conditions that are 50 years.
Isn't that incredible how long it took?
Yep.
Yeah. That's amazing. That is amazing. I was talking with, I can't even remember now. I guess it was at church, because I have a friend their son is in the Army. Or no. He's Air Force. And we were talking about the exposures that happened in Afghanistan. that are, being acknowledged. We're talking about veteran service offices and all those kinds of things, and the importance of having veterans checked into them, and anybody in the military. Yeah, do y'all do work with active military, or is it only veterans?
It's active, guard, reserve.
Okay.
I've got I think it's a guard guy, 24 years. He's coming to see me next week. But sometimes the availability of benefits can certainly differ. The VA has their definition of what's considered active duty. You know, prior to 1980, it's a certain amount of days on active duty. After 1980, it's as long as you serve during your period of time which you were called, whether that's 6 months or 2 years, then you fulfill that commitment, and then really it boils down to, do you have a DD-214? A DD-214 is Title 10 federal time. That's active duty time. So, unfortunately, I'm hoping in the future that the door is opened more for our Guard and Reserve. But a lot of times, if you're Guard and Reserve time, my next question is, did you have any deployments? Did you have any period of time where you were activated, that DD-214 time? Because that drives benefits.
Okay.
So
that changes it, because I did know, and this has been years ago, I'm not really sure what the situation is. They had been in the Guard, and their son had an injury during training that was really debilitating. It was, something that happened, with a fall, and he was really having a hard time getting any kind of coverage because it was a training accident and he had never been deployed. Yeah. So what is a situation like that?
Normally, you're on active duty for training. It's different for disability.
Right.
If you're, we look at something called presumption of soundness. Okay. So when you come into the military, all of us has a physical. And if it wasn't caught on that physical, the presumption is you're good to go.
Right.
You're healthy. You're fit to serve. And so if something occurs in the military, whether it be on basic training or down the road, that's on government time.
Right.
And so oftentimes when they catch different things medically, we can argue you cleared them, you know, before. So,
so this had to have happened when they were actually serving.
It can happen on active duty, or it can happen in basic training.
Yeah.
And I have veterans that were injured in basic training.
Oh yeah.
And didn't get to serve the rest of their time.
Yeah.
So, and they're collecting disability. So, it's all situation driven.
Yeah.
If I'm not sure about something a veteran is asking, I'll look into it, of course, but I'm going to file. I'm going to use my judgment to the best of my ability. If it's not a frivolous or fraudulent claim,
right,
I'm going to file and then let the VA make that determination.
Right. So, well, see, that's the thing. And if you've got somebody that has served or is serving in some kind of capacity, like we're talking about, if they don't have a relationship with their the Veteran Service Office, they absolutely need to. And Gwen's really loving the new hours. I noticed she's really liking the way it's set up, and it's working out really well. Yeah. And so you guys have got somebody there every day now, because before, you had certain days you had appointment day, which, and then you had, days that you were working from home. And a lot of that is because of what we were doing with COVID and all that. And y'all have you've got these new fancy offices. And you guys have gotten into, you're open every day. Yeah. So there you go. You got somebody, we were always open every day, but now you've got somebody in the office every single day.
We like to have, and some surrounding counties do the same thing. Well, I mean, Davidson County, they work from home still. Terry and I, when I came here in 2019, it wasn't let's work from home. We put up the glass, and we had an as needed appointment based, office.
Right.
But we never closed the doors to office, and so even though we were available 5 days a week, and there's, a lot of weeks that 6 and 7 days that I'm out doing a home visit or picking up paperwork or talking to someone about a pension, or disability. So, but the perception was there that I would get veterans say, "Hey, Scott, I wanted to call you guys on Monday, but I knew you were closed." And so I'm thinking in my head, we're not closed.
Yeah, you should have just picked up the phone.
And so,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
And so to get rid of that perception, because we're here for our veterans,
Right.
I said, look, we'll still keep an admin day a week. Abigail gets on Fridays, she's admin, and then on Mondays, I have an admin day.
Mm-hmm.
Those admin days are extremely valuable because we can get so far behind in what we do in the office. We have a lot of walk-ins, even though we recommend appointments. I'm not going to say, I can't see you.
Right.
I'm always going to say, come on back. I just have a few minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I've got an appointment coming in, but if you want to come on
Right.
in and
We'll get it started.
we'll get it started, and that way you start your relationship.
Yep. And
Right.
but it's difficult. Sometimes it's very easy to get behind.
Right.
And so those admin days are super important for you not to be overwhelmed.
Right.
Because in this job, when you're trying to do so much for everybody, it can be overwhelming. So, and you can kind of go into a hole where you never get caught up.
Right.
And I don't do well mentally with feeling behind all the time.
Right.
So those admin days are important, but we're there 5 days a week.
Right. And so when Gwen is there, Gwen is there, she's going to be at the desk and
Yep.
make sure you get directed to the right person. But the fact that you guys have those days, and Abigail was saying the same thing when she was in last time, just to have that uninterrupted time.
Yeah.
I think any of us who have worked in a situation, that's one, I'm going to school today to get some things done. I've got some things going on tomorrow. It's going to be so nice because I'm not going to have people popping in my room all the time.
Get something done.
Yeah, and so you don't have those constant interruptions, and it just makes all the difference in the world. And being able to be productive, you can stay on task, and you're not pulled away. And for somebody like me who has attention issues already, if you give me things to pull me off task, well, it's like that's just a no-brainer that's going to keep me from being productive. So I think that's a good idea. And again, if you've got anybody associated with the things going on that are veteran driven, if you're in the reserves, anything like that, by all means, come by and ask them the questions. Make sure that you're on their radar, and get the help that you need. I'm always asking Vietnam veterans, are you aware of the benefits for those who are exposed to Agent Orange? And really am stunned at the ones who've never pursued it. Mm-hmm. And I had, we had a lot of veteran conversations over the last week as we were, getting ready for Memorial Day. And something was said about somebody who had a spouse that had passed, and right before they passed, they were able to get some benefits going. And I said, and they were like, "Woo, I'm glad we got that done." And I said, and this is a relative of theirs. And I said, well, that there are provisions made for widows of veterans now. And this had been many years ago. And I said, they really need to check back into it, because while they did have that issue get settled at that time, there may be something beyond that even now, because they're so fully, and we were talking about how that Agent Orange is affecting children that were born post-Vietnam, and they were not aware of that. There's so much of this that while you and I talk about it all the time and we're well aware of it, so many people, they have no idea. The thing about children born after Vietnam being affected in their DNA, that's one that a lot of people have no clue. And I'm like, there's the Vanderbilt studies and those kinds of things that have gone on that have been very specific about it. Now, I know Abigail said that there's only one particular issue that they have found, that they have verified in children of Vietnam soldiers, correct?
From males
Yeah.
who served and were exposed to spina bifida.
Spina bifida.
That's
Right.
the only recognized one. With females that were in country or, in Thailand, Guam, other locations where they may have been exposed to herbicides because they had Agent Orange, purple, black, red. I just say herbicides.
Yeah.
For the females that serve, there's a lot more issues.
Really?
Oh yeah. But for males, it's just spina bifida. Now, keep in mind that you have certain conditions called presumptive conditions,
Right.
which are the ones the VA has recognized based on seeing them all the time in a certain population group, like Vietnam veterans. When they're seeing the same thing all the time, like hypertension, eventually, many years later, they end up making it a presumptive, automatically connected once the VA concedes exposure. But if your doctor says that your son or daughter has a condition that, in their medical opinion, can be linked to your exposure, but it's not on the VA's list, we need to talk about it because that's how, claims are built.
Yeah.
That's one of the ways that additional presumptive conditions are added to the VA's list.
Right.
Now, you have to remember, unfortunately, it is what it is. The more conditions the VA links to service is money. It costs money. And not just money, but billions and billions of dollars. So the VA, sometimes I just think that's one of the reasons they're hesitant. And maybe they just want to be sure. I'll try to give the benefit of a doubt. Let's be sure about, some different presumptive conditions before they add them to the list. But, that's why the PACT Act in 22 that was signed by President Biden in August was such a huge deal, because the VA automatically connected just 300 conditions to burn pits.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they came out and did that was just groundbreaking, all at one time. The relatively small list we have for herbicide exposure, like Agent Orange, 50 years later, but with burn pits, it's incredible, the list of issues that if a veteran has a current diagnosed condition, they have qualifying exposure time downrange, then it's automatically connected. And the reason it's so surprising, because it goes back to the VA having to predict their budget and how much, they're guessing how much they're going to have to pay out in disability. When a veteran doesn't come in and utilize the benefits that they've earned, you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting others you served with, because that's a benefit, like you've heard me say many times on the show, that's a benefit that you've earned. I don't ever use the word entitled. This is something, my dad died without getting anything from the VA as far as compensation. And he would have, he had heart disease. That's how he died. He was in Vietnam. So I'll keep doing what I'm doing as long as I can, and the sitting mayor lets me, because of that. I don't want veterans missing out on something that they've earned.
And is your mom still around?
She is.
So would there be any thing that she could pursue?
And she's getting something called dependency indemnity compensation.
Okay.
So when a veteran's death is connected to his or her service,
okay,
and for example, something the veteran's getting disability for, or should have been getting disability for,
right,
is listed as a contributing factor on that death certificate, that makes the death service connected.
Okay.
And then if there's an eligible spouse, he or she is qualified to apply for dependency compensation. And go figure, the first 2 times we applied for it for my mother, they denied it. And then on the 3rd time, I worked with, Terry Wilson, and he put together an argument. The right doctor looked at it, I want to say in Minnesota, because it was a records review. And that doctor connected the dots and, and said cause of death is service connected, at least as likely as not. And so my mother, that was life-changing for my mom.
I'm sure.
It's, granted, anything in this day helps because it's gotten so expensive for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But she was certainly on a fixed income. I would send her money every month when I could. But then we were able to get her this dependency compensation. And so you have to remember, I told a family in the office yesterday, disability compensations for the veteran, right? They're the one that's injured, sick, ill. So when that veteran passes, a lot of times that disability stops, that compensation. And if a veteran's 100%,
mm-hmm.
that's a lot of money, and it's just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So there are ways when a veteran passes for us to allow the spouse to receive some compensation. Oftentimes, it's our spouses that are taking care of us.
Oh, yeah.
Especially our older veterans that are sick. And so they've certainly earned, what the VA has only for the last 10 years. That dependency compensation program is not that old. Our spouses used to get zero. Our spouses would get nothing. But if we can in some way connect the veterans passing to service, it's not what the veteran was getting on disability,
mm-hmm.
but it's about $1,700 a month.
Right.
So, and that helps.
That's a big difference.
Huge.
For sure. I'm just sitting here thinking, you were a Vietnam baby. So do you have, if your dad was exposed, so.
Nothing so far. And that.
You need to be aware.
Yeah, that, I've worked with two of the geneticists at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And because we do have a veteran whose son has a condition that it can be tough to be recognized because it's still new. This is going to be the future.
Right.
This chromosomal DNA aspect of Agent Orange exposure is the future.
Right.
And as we learn more about it, and the VA builds their data pool, that's how we start getting other things connected besides just spina bifida.
Mm-hmm.
But his is going to be tough, my veteran, because he served on the DMZ in Korea. And the VA only recognizes herbicide use all along the DMZ in Korea. And so based on the unit he was attached with, the VA says you weren't exposed. And it's different because I instantly see the veteran's demeanor. He got angry.
Oh, yeah.
Because
he knows what
he knows what he did.
He knows what he did.
He knows what he was exposed to. He knows what he bathed in.
Oh.
And because it was in the water, in the river.
Sure.
And so that's where they would wash.
Yeah.
And so he gets frustrated, and I try to, reel him in a little bit, but let him talk and listen.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we need to prove that you were exposed
mm-hmm.
before we can go after your son's, DNA condition.
Right.
So we have to work backwards.
Right.
So right now.
So he's got a son that's got some issues.
Correct. Yep. Huh. He's got a son who has tumors that just pop up everywhere in his body.
Wow.
No, I'm not going to say no, but that's not common.
No.
So what in the world caused it?
Yeah.
Well, there are other, as a medical person, you look at contributing factors, family, history.
Right.
And there's nothing. Oh, well, Dad served in Korea and was exposed to herbicides.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one where those hard cases, they usually have to go before a judge, a VA law judge. It's called the Board of Veterans Appeals. Those are the ones that take, year, 2, 3, 5 years. In the past, they used to take 10, 15 years
mm-hmm. before
the veteran gets a decision. But sometimes an independent law judge looks at everything,
mm-hmm.
and their expert opinion based on facts of the case, they can say it's granted, or it needs more work. So that judge will remand it back to the VA to maybe do some studies on the son, So this
I'd be interested to see how that ends up. And like you said, it puts in a precedent that if you can get it recognized as being an issue, then that helps others that are having some issues.
100%.
Interesting. I mean, this is so interesting. It's the complexities of all this and the way you're helping out the veterans. It's just amazing the work that you guys are doing. We appreciate y'all. And we've got the best office. We've got the best VSO office. And y'all just work so hard, and I appreciate you guys. They come in, if you're just joining us, somebody from our Veteran Service Office comes in every fourth Wednesday to just kind of talk about, of course, Memorial Day is still on our minds. We've got the summer months and all the things we have going on in honor of our veterans. Through May is Armed Services Month, isn't it? Is that right? I can't remember. But Lee Marie will know. She keeps us up to date on that. But there's so many observances and so many opportunities to honor our veterans. And if you've got a veteran in your life, if you've got anybody that you think might have some kind of service-related issue, come and talk to them. It can't hurt you to just sit down and go through it. As I've said, I've got a friend of mine that's got kidney failure that was in Vietnam. Is that one that's service-related?
Kidneys, yeah.
Okay.
And it can be, like I was mentioning a bit ago, just because something is not on the VA's list or the VA said years ago it's not connected, sometimes we need to take another look at that. Because like I said, if you have a doctor saying it's connected, but it's not on the VA's black and white list,
right,
we need to look more at that.
I need to follow up with him because we had talked at one point, and I'm not really sure where he got to in his, trying to make some claims, but I may have him call y'all. But he's had a really tough time.
Yeah, if you're doing it by yourself,
yeah,
we get them from time to time that have done it by themselves, but it's not common at all.
Well, he's not in our county
to do well,
but y'all have helped people outside of the county.
Out of
He's
county, out of
in
state.
Davison, yeah.
And
so, but I do need to follow up with him and just ask him and see if he ever got any kind of closure with that, because I mean, it's just from talking to him, to me, it's obvious.
Yeah.
Because of the things that I've heard from you guys, I'm like, man, this sounds like a slam dunk case for, getting some compensation from his time in Vietnam. But again, it's where were you, when were you there, all of those things to make sure.
Once the VA conceives exposure to herbicides or burn pits, that opens the door for so many conditions for us to look at. A lot of times kidney damage is caused by hypertension that's automatically connected to Agent Orange, cause diabetes, and cause severe kidney damage. So, me being a medic, for 20 years in the military, I'm looking at the medical perspective of things. Diabetes can cause hearing loss.
I think he's diabetic too, actually. I'm now that you mention that.
Yeah. So can cause severe kidney damage. And, it was interesting when I started learning more about the diabetes connection to hearing loss. Because traditionally, if we connect hearing loss, the VA looks at when you came in the service, when you got out, your hearing was fine. We're not going to connect it. But medically, diabetes can cause hearing loss because of the constriction of the vessels. Okay. Especially in the inner ears. And so, different things like that. We not only connect a lot of primary disabilities, but we look at a lot of secondary, like hypertension causing heart disease or kidney disease. So, and diabetes, it's just unfortunately so common, but it can be, especially when it's not controlled, it can just cause enormous health problems.
Terrible what it can do to your body if you don't get it diagnosed, anything like that. Yeah. That's why you need to take your checkups, y'all, and do all that. Let's pause for a second. I'm going to do one of my breaks. And I noticed Lee Marie coming in. Don't forget, today is Wednesday, so that means that Lee Marie will be coming in for another full hour of local programming with The Ghost Show, and she always has great information for us. But I want to talk about our sponsor, the UPS store. Respect the fact that they closed on Memorial Day. I love it when I see businesses acknowledge that, and they take time and they shut down and they say, you know what? Not only do we want our we want to honor a day like Memorial Day, but we want to give our employees an opportunity to be with their family and to enjoy the freedom that we've been given. So I really respect that. I was glad to see that they were closed on Memorial Day. But of course, they are back at it yesterday and today. In all ways, they're open to serve you. And actually, let's look at their hours. Their hours are 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Or let's see, they're 8 a.m. to 6:30 Monday through Friday. Saturday, they're open 9 to 5. And then on Sunday even, they're open 12 to 5. So they've got all kinds of hours to serve you. And they are so much more than the place to drop off your Amazon returns. I actually have some Amazon returns I need to drop off, but they also have done tons of printing for me. They printed our badges for our Celebrate Recovery group up at Madison when we were looking for. I was trying to do them myself at church, and they just weren't holding up. And so I took them into the UPS store, and they did a beautiful job on them. They helped me with the graphic arts on it. They've got somebody there to work graphic arts that's actually on staff, and they have got notaries. Everybody in the store is a registered notary. So if you need, you don't think about it until you've got to get something notarized. You don't think about, where can I go get this done? And it's easy. UPS store, just walk in and they will help you with anything that you need to have notarized. They are, of course, running a special right now on shredding. They've got 50% off shredding as you're going through the end of year stuff. You know, I have paperwork that I don't need from my kiddos at school. And you think about, you don't just throw that stuff away because it's got personal information on it, something that a kid's filled out. You want to shred that stuff. When we closed our business, we had to go through properly to store. You know, we had a roofing company for 20 years. When we decided to retire from construction, you can't just throw that stuff away. That's people's personal information. So whatever you've got that needs to be shredded, right now is a great time. They have a coupon that is a 50% off shredding. That is their May promotion. But here's the thing with the UPS store. If you have a coupon and you hang on to it, it never expires. Just like last month's coupon was for discounts for printing invitations and postcards and things like that related to graduation parties, those kinds of things. Well, if you hang on to that coupon, they're going to honor it anytime. So same thing, get a coupon for the shredding and hang on to it. And even though it's not May, if you hang on to that coupon, you will get the same opportunity to get that shredding discount. So many more things in there. They've got those big, I don't know if we call them big heads or what it is, where you want to honor your kid at a birthday or a graduation. And when you have their big face, you can do those. I think those are about $35. They have mailboxes. If you want to make sure you don't have to worry about porch pirates anymore and you want your packages delivered in a secure and safe environment, you can get that service available as well at the UPS store. We love our UPS store. They are awesome. Nicest people in the world. Hands down, one of the best in customer service that I've ever experienced. They're at 513 Memorial Boulevard, And again, we'll be open here at 8 o'clock. I'll go through the hours one more time for you. But their hours are 8 a.m. until 6:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. Saturday, they're open 9 to 5. And then on Sunday, they're open from 12 to 5. Not just the place you drop off your Amazon returns. Of course not. So many other things going on. They are your shredder, your printer, your mailbox service, and your notary, and the list goes on and on. Nicest folks in the world. Get by the UPS store today and be sure and let them know that U-Turn sent you. Talking with Scott Erwin. He is our Veteran Service. He's with the Veteran Service Office. He is the boss there. We'll call him the boss. What is your actual title? Are you the director?
Director of Veteran Services. Yes.
The Director of Veteran Services. And they do a phenomenal job. And we had Gwen and Abigail in here. Had the girls in last time. So I figured today was your day. And we appreciate you so much for coming on in here early. But what else do we need to know for the veterans? I mean, did you come in with anything specific that you wanted to make sure we covered today? Because we've been all over the place, but we've got another half hour here.
All things veteran. That's what, as Terry Wilson used to say. Mm-hmm. But we had on May the 17th, we had an event over here at the Robertson County Fairgrounds for My Father's House.
Right.
It was a fundraiser. I'm not sure if you got to attend, but that was pretty neat.
That was the same day as our Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival.
Yeah.
So that kind of knocked me because I always host that. So I was at the festival.
Yeah, and
But we were with you in spirit.
And I know the Legion and the VFW were trying to split up, divide and conquer.
Right.
But the young lady there that helps run the My Father's House, her husband is one of our veterans. David, he's a good guy. But it was veteran focused. She called all the veterans up to the front, and she had us line up. And then Operation Shoulder to Shoulder is it's an initiative that she's trying to kick off and help grow. And it was pretty awesome. She had veterans stand side by side, then she had us arm's length, and then she had a civilian stand in the middle, and it was shoulder to shoulder, with veterans supporting veterans and the community working with veterans and vice versa. So
it's a great visual.
It was and they did well for My Father's House, where the money is going to be put back into. And I'm really hoping that in the future, My Father's House is able to stand up to be more of a shelter versus just a cold weather shelter. I've had veteran homeless in my office, and it can, because there are such limited resources out here, we have to end up sending them to Davidson or Clarksville. And on that same note, I was talking with someone. It was the same young lady that helped put together My Father's House event. And when I've been trying to help veterans in the past for housing, they said, Scott, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave Sumner or Robertson County. And, there's no resources out here.
Right.
And I thought, well, maybe I guess down to business part of me was maybe you don't need the help that bad, because there's help just one county over. But she helped me. She explained to me, and she said, Scott, this is what the veteran knows out here. Whether if it's on the street, this is their family. This is
right.
And so that was an eye opener to me to talk with her and for her to give that perspective to me.
Because, are you talking about Karen?
No, Mr. David's wife.
Okay.
And Sheila.
Okay.
Sheila, she's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Karen
just
and Sheila came in here the week they were putting that on. So I knew had to be one of the two you were talking
Sheila,
about.
She was running around that day, bless her, with everybody else that worked, and they did awesome.
Yeah.
But she just helped put a different perspective. And sometimes I greatly appreciate that, because sometimes when I can get so hyper-focused on what we do and what we're trying to help that an outside perspective was awesome to hear from her.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping to see good things happen with My Father's House down the road. And I know they'll continue doing as much as they can. Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing. If you try to refer somebody to the Union Mission in Nashville, it's a wonderful facility, but it can be quite intimidating. I worked in Nashville for all those years, and I avoid it like the plague now because the downtown, it is just crazy what we've got going on in downtown. It is, especially in the last 10 years, how it's exploded into like a little mini Vegas down there. And you talk about being overwhelming, because the Mission's right there. It's in the downtown area, just off downtown a block or two. And so, it's a crazy place now.
Well, with a lot of that growth comes crime and bad things.
You better believe it. And so quite intimidating for somebody, for, a good old boy from Robertson County, having no other resource or recourse other than going to the Mission. That would be difficult. And I just can't imagine when you find out the story, everybody, when you see people on the street, if you take time to find out their story, you'll be blown away. 9 times out of 10. I mean, there are the ones that are on the street because they just are kind of the vagabond that that just they just want to live that way.
Yep.
There are those, and there are those, of course, that are there because of alcohol and drug addiction, and they've gotten overwhelmed with that, and they found themselves in those without any other recourse other than being on the street. There's a lot of mental illness out there, but there's always cases of where I'll never forget the one I went to the Laundry Love one day, and only had the opportunity to go one time, and that's still a program. I forget what day they run that, but they just do the laundry for people, because people who are in a financial they're having financial issues. Just getting your laundry done. If you're fed the coins into those, it's expensive to do your laundry. And so they have this program where they'll come in and they'll do your laundry for you. And there was a couple in there. They came in kind of at the last minute to do their laundry, and they were homeless. They were living basically in their truck in the hotel some during the week. And the woman was doing all the work, and the guy was back playing on a video machine. And I thought, what in the world is he doing? Come to find out, he'd had a stroke. And by doing that work on this video, it was helping to get his motor skills back. And I've seen him out many times since then walking. He's working really hard, because what had happened, they were both employed, doing fine. And I'm wanting to say they were from Kentucky. And he had a stroke, and all the medical bills just got overwhelming. Next thing you know, they couldn't pay their rent, and they were evicted. Yep. And so, I mean, good people, and just working hard, trying to get their life back together. And, people would see him working on the video, and it was trying to get back those motor skills. It was therapy for him because he couldn't afford therapy. So he was doing what he could to try to get control of his hands back. And then I would see him out and just walking. I imagine he looked like he was doing a lot better last time I saw them, but they would work. And she was basically, I think, working at Waffle House a lot. And when they would get the money, they would get the hotel. But that was their routine. And you hear that story and you're like, oh my goodness. People who don't have family resources and any other, most of us, like I'm sure you're one of these people that if something happened, you would never find yourself homeless because you've got friends and family that wouldn't let it happen.
Right.
They would take you in there. It wouldn't happen. But a lot of people don't have that. They don't have that. Maybe their family, is not of the means to be able to help them, or wouldn't. Maybe they've got some issues going, and we just don't think about those of us who do have those rich family ties, wonderful family and friends that we know would be there for us. Some people don't have that.
Yeah. And
they just don't.
Here's what I've learned. Over the course of my short 50 years and working in the office, everybody, not only does everybody have a story, but everybody's dealing with something.
You better believe it. Yeah.
So you don't see it on the outside very often. Sometimes I have my son's obituary in my office. He died, April 25th, 23, unexpectedly. He was 21 years old. I lost a 19-month-old when I was on active duty. And so
God bless you.
See
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, you see the demeanor of families change, and sometimes maybe they've lost a loved one, but they say, Scott, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. And but I just try to tell them, you know what? It's a daily effort to kind of keep moving forward. Sometimes it can be hard days, but I said, it boils down to everybody's dealing with something. Yeah. That's why I try to remind myself to be careful, be cautious, don't assume. Yeah. Like me assuming my veteran, well, he must not need the help. He doesn't want to go to where the help is. And being shown, hey, Scott, this is what he knows. You're telling him to pick up and leave what he knows. So different perspective, that kind of put me in check. So just remember, everybody's dealing with something, and it's not just black and white all the time.
You bet.
When I was at this Memorial Day event, and Terry was speaking, and Jeff Allen, the guest speaker, was talking, I couldn't help but think of, and it was primarily focused on veterans that we've lost who paid the ultimate sacrifice for us to get to enjoy the freedom and the choice that we have.
Yeah.
I fought for 20 years, not just for people who have the same values I have. I fought for 20 years for us to differ, to have differing opinions as well. And so, but the veterans, my thought kept going back to the veterans that came home but never came home. You know, the ones that mentally are still there, the ones that are, a week ago, I came across a website. It says in 2022, 6,400 plus veterans committed suicide in 2022. And so I'm thinking, it's just a lot of the veterans came home, but they're still there. And so hopefully we can remember not only the ones that the KIA, MIA, that left it all in the field, but also the ones that came home and unfortunately they get to such a dark place, and they succumb to their mental health, or they succumb to injuries 50 years later that were caused by Agent Orange or burn pits. Now, the one thing I'm seeing with burn pits as a service officer in this small county, I'm starting to see a lot more bad cancers in burn pit veterans that were just recently exposed 5 years ago. I have my Vietnam veteran or Agent Orange veteran, and 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, something might come up. But it's just, I'm hoping it's not true, but it just seems like the burn pit veterans that we're getting, because it was all inhaled. I've lost 2 friends that I was stationed with at Keesler Air Force Base, Mississippi. Head, neck, brain, lung cancer, bone cancer, and they were in their 40s. Wow. So I feel like we're starting to see the effects of burn pits a lot quicker. Yeah. Which worries me. Yeah, it is. It is a worry. And it's just again, reinforcing the fact that if you've got a veteran in your life, they need to check in with their VSO, Veteran Service Office, and just start the process. So if something happens, it's not the last minute kind of thing. It's just get in on the front end. We're going to pause for a second. We're talking with Scott Erwin. We got about 10 more minutes. Let me go ahead and do my other ad, and then we'll get back to it. So be thinking about what else we need to cover. Don't forget Lee Marie's coming in here with another full hour of local programming on The Go Show, which she'll be following me here at 8 o'clock. So stay tuned. We want to talk about our sponsor, our longest full-time sponsor for One Street Over, of course, Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty. I like to pull up their social media and just kind of look at seeing what some of their special projects are, or some of their special properties. There's a property up here in Cottontown, guys. Oh my goodness, 5 acres, beautiful home, just absolutely beautiful home on this property. People who would love to have some land and have a place of solace, you've got it right here. This is a beautiful piece of property that I can't believe is going to be on the market very long. Go to Rebecca Richards Exit Prime Realty, and you'll be able to pull it up. But it's on 358 Spring Valley Drive in Cottontown. Absolutely gorgeous piece of property. You would absolutely love this, and it would be certainly a place where you could just get away from it all. But 5 acres now, you don't find places like that very often. You find, maybe a 1/4 acre, and you might have a few trees, but this one's got a little bit of woodland, got a creek on it. Man, this one's not going to be around long. So if you want to see a really beautiful piece of property, of course, Barry, being the marketer, he has got the videography, a little bit of drone footage for you, but there's several listings of it on her page where you can get a really good look at it. That's one I know is going to sell quickly. It is an impressive home, beautiful piece of property, and if you want to know more, you can give Rebecca a call, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Beautiful, beautiful piece of property. And actually, as I'm looking at it, it says it is the newest listing. So the first listing I saw, it says, hey, coming soon. This is about to post, and that was on May 19th. And then she put up on May 20th, it's the newest listing in Cottontown. I can't believe it's going to be available long, guys. That's going to sell quickly. So if you want to check out that beautiful piece of property in Cottontown,
Go and check them out on social media today. If you want people that can help you mentor into being a realtor, talk to Barry and Rebecca Richards. Barry, of course, the marketer of the bunch, came out of a marketing background. Rebecca, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. She has her agency office in White House. He has his brokerage office here in Springfield. The two together combined to bring you a new branch in the Exit Tree, Exit Prime Realty. You can talk to them about anything and everything, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, you're just thinking about it, or you just want to know what is the market value. They can do a free market analysis of your home to say, what is it worth? Should I want to do an equity loan or something like that and pull some equity out of your property? They've helped me with that. But it's just nice to know what the real market value of your home is, and they can help you with that with no strings attached. When you get in touch with them, go to Barry and Rebecca Richards, Exit Prime Realty. You can Google them, find them anytime, or you can go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, robertsoncounty.com. Let them know you turned Cincha. Scott, what are we missing here? What do we want to make sure we cover before we wrap up our time today?
A couple of things where there's always something going on.
Sure.
One of the cool things I've gotten to participate in the last couple of years is what the American Legion does every year. It's called Flag Day. Mm-hmm. It's coming up on June the 14th, and it's where any flags that were torn, tattered, faded, there's a proper way to retire those flags.
Right.
Okay. Besides,
don't throw them away.
Throw them away.
No.
I don't care how big or small. Mm-mm. And what we do is we fold each of those flags the right way, and Terry reads it's almost like a proclamation about retiring the flag, what it's for, the proper way to do it. And we get to retire those flags at Springfield Memorial Cemetery. So that program start time is at 6 p.m. at Springfield Memorial Gardens on June the 14th.
Okay.
And then something else that's really been doing well, it's on the third Tuesday of every month. We have something called Coffee and Camaraderie. That was started by the Robertson County Chamber of Commerce, a veteran by the name is Asa. And Robertson County, the Credit Union for Robertson County has done phenomenal with helping sponsor that event. They provide, oftentimes donuts, coffee, and the young lady we work with there is super awesome, supportive of. And it's just really the third Tuesday of the month, 8:30 a.m. they open till about 10 a.m. Myself or Abigail is there, and it's just it's a sit down, meet and greet, discuss different things. It's open forum, and usually we have between 15 and 20 veterans show up, and it's just to get to know each other, networking. Which is important to do. And we'll get business cards from other veterans, both in county and out of county. So when other spouses or veterans come to our office, we have that business card of someone that we met at Coffee and Camaraderie, and we can kind of hook them up and link them together.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's just it, because it's like, do you know a guy? I had somebody said something. They had a program. I know a guy, and a lot of the times when you've got a concern, if hey, I need a plumber. Do you know a veteran that's a plumber?
Yeah,
and you want to do those kinds of things. Well, that's the kind of connections that you make at those kinds of events. And I love, the girls have been telling me about this. I'm going to try to pop into one and just say hi to everybody during the break. But tell me again, it's on which Tuesday of the month?
The third Tuesday of every month.
Third Tuesday of every month.
8:30 a.m. to about 10 a.m. at the Credit Union for Robertson County.
Yeah, what a great idea, though, and just a chance to get connected and to just encourage each other and say, hey, what's going on with you, and just keep that connection. So I love that. Anything else? We've got just a few minutes left, Scott, before we wrap time up.
I'll tell you, you'd be surprised, if you sat with us for a week or two, the different type of questions and assistance that some families are asking about needing. And I'm thinking, as Terry Wilson used to say, all things veteran, because we get a gambit of questions.
Right, I'm sure.
And requests for assistance. And we will absolutely look into help. I don't know that there's much of a thing called a job title is what we do. because we do a little bit of everything.
Right.
It just doesn't matter. And my effort, it always comes back to my veteran or my spouse. How can I help?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and sometimes I've said before, the red tape is difficult with the VA, but they have guidelines we have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes most of the time we can, sometimes we can't, but please let us take a look at it, and I promise you, we'll do what we can.
Mm-hmm.
So if a veteran's out and about, of somebody, call us, 615-382-6506, and ask questions, come by and see us. We're there 5 days a week, right there in the same building as the mayor, the Robertson County Annex. So we welcome in county, out of state, doesn't matter. We're just here to help, period.
For sure.
Yep.
And in all kinds of community events. Do y'all have any plans to be at any of the Friday night markets, you think?
Haven't heard.
Okay. So I'll mention that to Gwen, because we do have our Friday night markets. Sometimes y'all be at that. But just as you said, you were at the My Father's House event. You were at the Kilgore Station Blue, not y'all specifically, but veterans and connections and things where you can make those connections. Anytime you see a veteran, if you see a veteran that's out at an event, they will know how to help connect you with these guys, because they all know each other. So y'all are all connected, intertwined. So great time, to just reach out this summer and get your connections going with your VSO office.
Please,
very good.
Give us a call.
Okay. Do the number one more time and go over the hours one more time, and we'll exit and let Lee Marie come in here and take over.
The Veteran Service Office, Robertson County, 615-382-6506, 615-382-6506, and it's 502 8th Avenue East.
Very good.